If you're one of those compact executive car buyers who thinks outside the box, then you're probably thinking beyond the usual BMW 3 Series, Audi A4, Mercedes C-Class options for your next car. If that's the case, then Jaguar's X-Type should still be figuring in your thinking. The Coventry marque has properly improved this car in its latest guise, refreshing the styling inside and out and bringing some of its equipment options up to date. Crucially, there's now a 6-speed automatic with sequential shift function on the 2.2-litre diesel model, which should transform its sales prospects. Tough competition from newer German rivals has made Jaguar's X-Type a rather forgotten choice, in a sector where most customers buy Audi A4s, BMW 3 Series and Mercedes C-Class models. Now, it wasn't always so. Back in 2001, when this car was first launched as Jaguar's first entry into the premium CD sector, the company had plans to outsell its rivals. This V6 all-wheel drive sports saloon aimed to bring XJ values to the mainstream buyer. Now, it didn't happen despite attempts to broaden the range with a front-driven 2-litre diesel derivative, then an estate, and finally the 2.2-litre diesel that's received the bulk of the changes within the latest range. Now, let's get this into perspective. No, the X-Type probably isn't the newest thing on the block, but if you want V6 power and all-wheel drive from Audi or BMW, then you'll pay £3,000 to £5,000 more for it, and you'll still struggle probably to match the Jaguar's equipment levels. Still inclined to write the X-Type off? Now, once upon a time, if you bought a Jaguar X-Type, you got all-wheel drive. It was on all the models. It's slightly different now. The sole petrol engine option has it, a 3-litre V6 with 231 brake horsepower. But most buyers these days opt for one of the diesels, and they're both front-driven. There's a 128 brake horsepower 2-litre diesel and the 152 brake horsepower 2.2-litre diesel that I'm driving here. Now, handling is assured with the four-wheel drive system where fitted, giving great traction out of corners and beautifully neutral cornering at high speeds. In the wet, there's very little to touch a well-driven X-Type, although enthusiastic drivers will prefer the manual gearbox to the rather lethargic automatic. Even the front-wheel drive models rarely betray their underpinnings, such is the excellence of the chassis and suspension setups. Now, the big news with this refreshed X-Type is the introduction of a new 6-speed automatic gearbox, which has the added attraction of one-touch control Jaguar sequential shift for manual gear changes. Now, when this car was first launched, the interior set new standards of quality and indeed modernity for Jaguar. What I find particularly impressive is the way the designers have managed to balance the need for traditional elements like wood veneer and chrome cappings with modern must-haves like multi-function LCD screens, airbags and multi-speaker audio systems. Now, that's a tall order, but the X-Type manages it better than most. Certainly the cabin has a more premium feel than many of its rivals, with premium design cues dotted all around it. Owners familiar with earlier X-Types will notice revised frontal styling that includes a redesigned 3D bright mesh grille complete with Jaguar Growler emblem. There are restyled front bumper covers, a bright splitter in the lower air intakes and a neat roof-mounted antenna pod to replace the previous aerial. What Jaguar hopes is a lower, sportier profile is also underlined by cleaner, more modern side mouldings. There are revised door mirrors too, which now incorporate the indicators, probably making them fearsomely expensive to replace. Revised alloy wheels and a wider range of colour options complete the improvements. Now, do buyers in this sector go for the latest look and German technology, or tight pricing, practicality and high equipment levels? Well, if the latter, then Jaguar should be well placed. It's certainly practical, and you've got a choice of well-equipped S, SE, Sport Premium, or if you want something plusher, Sovereign trim levels, all at prices that will save you between £1,500 and £4,000 less than comparable rivals from Audi, BMW and Mercedes-Benz. More if you're costing equipment differences. Estate variants are offered across the lineup at a price premium of about £1,400 model for model. And here the rear seat back can fold, accommodating 1, 2 or 3 passengers. When it's folded flat, you've got a whopping 1,415 litres of cubic capacity to clog with lifestyle accoutrements. Prices continue to start at around the 21,500 mark. Now, you wouldn't expect X-Type residuals to be in the same bracket as those of new arrivals, but nevertheless they're not as far off as you might think. Factor in the higher discounts and the lower purchase price that Jag dealerships are able to offer, and you could find that this car is a more cost-effective alternative to comparable German rivals. Though Jaguar can't quite offer the wide range of diesels that are available from some of its rivals, there are no V6s for example, the two that it does have are at least pretty frugal. The 2-litre diesel manages 48.5 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle, and the 2.2, well, that's not far behind, that manages 45.6 miles to the gallon. You wouldn't expect the 3-litre V6 petrol range topper to be in that league, and it isn't. You would record probably about 25 to the gallon in day-to-day use normally. Insurance groupings, well, they sit in the expected 13 to 16 bracket. Now, if you thought of this car as outdated in the face of new arrivals like the 3rd generation Audi A4 or the 3rd generation Mercedes C-Class, then it might be time to give the Jaguar another look. Yes, it may be Mondeo based, but that still means it handles with aplomb, and its value proposition is good enough to make German rivals look expensive.